And now, you're tuned into RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Hello, everyone out there in Tampa Bay and beyond. This is James Knowles coming at you for the RBLR Sports Podcast, and I'm here covering the Rowdies. You might be familiar with that team from Tampa Bay. I am here today to do so with Carlos, my usual co-host. How are you doing this weekend? And you know what? It is the middle of the week.
Yeah.
It is a Wednesday. So how are you doing this Wednesday?
Recording a little bit later than usual, James. We had a nice 4th of July yesterday. Had a good time. Lit up some fireworks. Can't go wrong, right? Decent weekend. I spent the majority of last week in Chicago. I was doing a mentorship program, helping out some Hispanic high school organization with college applications. It was a great time. I loved it. Watched the Rowdies game from a little dorm room at UChicago. And obviously enjoyed the result, which we can talk about in a little bit. But yeah, been a good week. Enjoying, my time back here in Tampa now. Really, really excited for this upcoming Saturday. It's been a while since we've had a home game, James. I'm looking forward to it. But before any of that, of course, how are you doing? What's going on in your life?
Yeah, well, obviously, as you said, we also had July 4th, and coming up on Friday, I didn't realize this, but I was actually given Monday off as well. It was a 4-day weekend, and that was
Nice.
pretty cool for myself, and obviously probably a lot of my coworkers too. But to focus on what we are here for, Carlos, as you said, there is a Rowdies game that we need to cover. The Rowdies went out west this past weekend and played Las Vegas Lights under those same Las Vegas Lights. And I would say eked out a 2-1 win. But hey, as we always say, 3 points is 3 points. And we desperately need 3 points right now. In the RBLR Cup standings, it was Eureka who took all 3 of those points. He correctly predicted both the result and the scoreline. Well done to Eureka. That puts him up. And now myself and the guest spot are on 14 points. Eureka has 13, and Carlos, you are only 2 points away from the top with 12 points. So it's pretty tight right now. Yeah, we're all kind of in the same area there. So I guess we still need to figure out, whatever the winner gets at the end, and then we'll have some real motivation for everyone out there. Now we have another game to preview. For the first time in a while, the Rowdies will be back home, and this weekend we are playing Oakland Roots. So obviously, please do show up at Al Lang Stadium. There will be a lot of fun to be had there, and probably a lot of pent-up energy, if I had to guess, because of the long period that the Rowdies have been away.
Yep.
Before we get into everything, I do want to also say RBLR Sports, we are having our second ever RBLR Rowdies watch party, and that will be on Saturday, July 22nd, back at Berry House at the Ybor Strip. We will have more information, and there will be obviously a lot of information online, so please do look that up if you don't get all the way to our part of the show where we talk about that. But hey, you could also stick around. Just listen for what our watch party details are, because we're going to make sure that everyone who shows up has a good time, just like we did on the last one. So, Carlos, let's get into the quick recap here. And let's take it away.
Let's do it, James. This was a fun one at the end. There was a lot going on, but to start off, as per usual, the starting lineup started with Connor Sparrow in goal, Antley, Kleeman, Lasso, and Guillen making up that back line. Jordan Doherty and Armin making up that central midfield unit right in front of them. Armin moving up into that kind of midfield spot, out of the left back spot that he played last week in. Then we had LaCava, Jennings, and Dennis making up the 3 in front of them, with JJ Williams, of course, being the main man up top. A lot to talk about. We'll skip over most of it now. We'll just talk about this recap. Obviously, we got off to a very, very quick start. It was Cal Jennings who went back to his former team's venue and got off to a rapid start, scoring a beautiful, beautiful finish. Just 14 minutes into the game off of a crazy throw from Connor Antley. Caught the entire back line of Las Vegas sleeping. And Cal Jennings just beautifully finishes it into the upper corner from a very, very narrow angle. Well done to him. Fantastic to see him coming into form like that. Despite that, it seems like we've often had a we often score a goal, right? And then we'll kind of get more chances. We'll get more chances. We got momentum. In this case, James, it seemed like we scored that goal. And for about 10 minutes, it was Las Vegas pushing more, Las Vegas getting closer to the goal. And eventually they broke through just 10 minutes later off of a goal from Zali, off of a really weird cross where there was about 3 Vegas players open on the back post. Any one of them could have finished that goal. And eventually it was Zali after a good save from Sparrow, by the way, but couldn't save the second opportunity. 1-1 going into halftime. Not much else going on offensively at the end of the half. The Rowdies did not get another shot on goal in the second half until the 86th minute, James, when JJ Williams scored a goal of the season candidate, I would say. JJ Williams scored the goal of his life so far. I'm going to put it out there and just say that I don't know what Las Vegas was thinking, giving him that much. No, I'm joking. JJ Williams out of nowhere turns around and rips a shot into the upper right corner off a random little assist from Connor Antley, who would end with 2 assists on the night, finishing as the FOTMOB man of the match. And yeah, James, just like that, we'd close it out, hold out for the last few minutes, and Las Vegas would have maybe one more good-looking opportunity, a really, really rapid shot from a tight angle that Connor Sparrow seemed to have locked down all the way right as time expired. And the Rowdies would go on to win 2-1 in a very tight, very nervy game where we can talk about this in a second, but I think we might have gotten outplayed over the course of this 90 minutes against the worst team in the league. That being said, 3 points. I think at the end of the season, we'll look back on it and not really remember this game. Maybe we will for the JJ Williams goal. Actually, I take that back. But it's 3 points, so we're not going to remember how bad we played, to be honest. We'll talk about this in this episode, though, because we need to figure out what went on. That being said, James, 3 straight road games, 3 tough games, by the way. We can't take any team for granted in this league. And 7 points in those 3 games. I'm pretty happy with that road trip. Let's break down this game, though. Let's just jump into the first half, James. What gives here? We're going into halftime 1-1. What happened? Where was our offensive production? Why was it just like one opportunity and then nothing? But with the exception of that Charlie Dennis shot kind of in the middle of the first half that took a random deflection, forced Diaz from Vegas to make a really good save. Can you break down the first half for us, James? I don't know what's going on. I was really confused about just the lack of intensity, lack of production that we saw. Go for it, James. I don't have much to add here. I'm confused.
So, yeah, last week, obviously, we talked about this a little bit with Loudoun United in that game.
Yeah.
I think that was a performance that the team would also generally like to forget. We went down twice. Yeah, because they scored first. We scored second to make it 1-1. And then they scored again to make it 2-1. And we had to level it up and then take the lead. So that was a similar situation, unfortunately, where the Rowdies were not playing at their best, probably not playing at that, very high intensity. I made a whole big argument last week about, how I dislike the times that coaches or players will say, well, we just got to play with more intensity. We got to want it more. But that was actually the case in the game against Loudoun United. I don't know if I would say that was the case in this game, that it was the Rowdies like not having the same intensity, but or the proper. Well, okay. I don't know if it was a problem of motivation, but I do think that the intensity was still missing. Neil Collins said that in, it's not really an after party or an after party, and after an after game interview. We didn't really get to ask any questions, Carlos. That kind of sucks on the away games, but we do get his statements to the PR team for the Rowdies. So at least we get, some insight from him on how the game went for the Rowdies, how the team played. He was not too happy with it. And I think that you and I are kind of feeling the same way. It was more so that, the Rowdies, I think, were, again, I don't know if this one is another one that I would say possibly comes down to lesser motivation. I think that it also kind of just, it's hard to get up for these games where you're traveling out west, especially. I could, let's say if we were flying out to Seattle or something like that, it would just be that much tougher to get up when you have such a long distance flight. And it's not like they're going there and they're getting acclimatized to the actual climate or to the time change or anything like that. They're mostly going there the day before. We've seen cases last year, Carlos, where weather dictated that they went the day of. So I do get it in that sense. I don't think that they were delayed or anything in this case, but it's still not a lot of time to get used to what you're doing out there. You kind of it. We've all flown, if you have flown, I guess. I guess not everyone has flown, but everyone who has flown and taken in several different hours worth of time change, it does take it out of you. So I
Yeah.
kind of get that, and hopefully it won't be too big of an issue
Yeah.
going forward. But the other thing that I will say is that the Rowdies lined up with, yeah, like you said, Jake Arman and Jordan Doherty in the midfield, and they were Jake Arman. I think that we have seen him play mostly as a winger or wing back in the stripes of the Rowdies. So, in that sense, it was kind of a switch up, but I think that he's pretty used to playing in the center of the midfield. So I don't think that there was really any drop there. But the Rowdies were mostly trying to go down the wings with Connor Antley and Aaron Guillen, it seemed like at different times. So
Yeah.
they would switch up how frequently they were going forward and in what ways. But the nominal wingers, Jake LaCava and Charlie Dennis, they really weren't playing as wingers, So
Sure.
that kind of allowed Las Vegas to get a good portion of their game down the wing, where we would probably otherwise like to take over that portion of the field. We didn't really get to do that with the formation that we had all the time. There were some changes obviously along the way, and there were some changes in formation a little bit too. But yeah, it was just very interesting to see how Las Vegas was able to get down the wing, because you and I highlighted one player in particular, Lucas Stauffer, their stats leader on the season. He was heavily involved, and yeah, it was kind of weird to see.
Yeah. You mentioned I was looking back at the lineup, right? And you mentioned Charlie Dennis being on the wing. That was something that he's played on the wing before, but that's something that's been kind of, I guess if you look at recent games, is relatively unusual.
Right.
He's been playing in that kind of like attacking midfield position. He's been doing really, really well there.
Yeah.
Looking back, that's something that kind of surprised me. Kyle Jennings in past games has played on the wing and has done a pretty good job of it. That being said, obviously he had a good game. He scored a goal early on in this game too. So I wonder what that's going to look like going forward, because obviously you had Dennis come off at halftime for Dayon Harris. In going into the second half, Dayon Harris went out to the wing. Jennings seemed to kind of stay in that mid, like kind of attacking mid, false nine type role. I wonder what that's going to look like going forward. If Kyle Jennings is going to kind of like take over Charlie Dennis's spot, or what we're going to see going into the next few games. Because honestly, I've really enjoyed Dennis in that position where Kyle Jennings has been, where it was this past Saturday. He's been doing really, really well there. I think he's like, I'm going to misquote the stat, but USL Tactics, John Morrissey had him up there as like one of the top chance creators in the league, and he's been doing that from that position and that like attacking mid role. So I'm curious. I mean, I'm not critiquing, right? We got the win. I'm kind of putting this question out there. I wonder why we had him move out to the wing and put Jennings into that position where Dennis has been. That being said, Kyle Jennings, I remember at the beginning of the season, was kind of playing in the wing role and wasn't finding as much production. So it's a give and take, really. We'll have to see what that looks like going forward. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Kind of just who's on the best form, in any given month, kind of is how it's gone.
Yeah. I mean, we're in a position right now where I think it's a good position to be in. Despite losing Ryan Spalding, we have a lot of attacking power and talent that would, talent on the bench that would start in most USL teams. You're looking at Dalgard, Harris, even Kasana, I think could get starts in a few USL teams. Ariel Martinez as well. He didn't get any playtime, but Dayon Harris coming in at halftime, I think, is kind of like symbolic of that for me. Like, we have a lot of power on the bench. Frankly, I was a little disappointed that Dayon Harris' sub at halftime didn't have like the impact it had against Loudoun. If you recall last week, when Dalen Harris came in against Loudon. Dalen Harris and Cal Jennings together, that substitute pair came in and just wrecked it for Loudon. That's
totally
when we
changed
really,
the game.
yeah, that's when we flipped that energy. In this game, when I saw him coming in at halftime, my mind was thinking back to the Saturday prior and thinking, okay, like now it's over. Now we're going to change the energy. We're going to get the goal production and we're going to, get at least a couple more goals. I mean, 3-1, 4-1, easy. That wasn't the case. I'm jumping into the second half, and I think we can just move on to the second half with that, if you're okay with that, James.
I mean, yeah, just one quick thing about the first half, because we didn't quite go over the goals super much, but I wanted to note very poor defending from us on the goal that we gave up.
I don't know what was going on there. I mean,
that was another thing that Neil Collins highlighted in the notes that we got from the post game, and it was he was similarly frustrated, I guess, like you and I were. But the other thing that I wanted to highlight is this is just kind of a fun fact, I guess. You get assists for throw-ins.
Yeah, I did not know that.
So, I mean, if you think about it, ultimately, it does make sense. If a goalkeeper has a ball and he throws it, overhand and it goes past the halfway line and a kind of goal happens like that, he would get an assist. If it's a corner, then the taker would get an assist. I guess it makes sense, but yeah, I didn't know that you would get an assist off of a corner or off of a throw-in. But good for Connor Antley. It's you and I have seen this, I think, at a lot of different levels of the game where teams are looking to create and take advantage of chaos moments a lot more than would have been considered actual scoring chances in the past. One of the most famous examples was Stoke City's Rory Delap, Ireland international, who could throw a soccer ball like someone would often, like how a quarterback would throw a football, like the distance. It was nuts. But yeah, if you can create chaos, then that leads to stuff. And his throw-in did create chaos. And that's also the type of goal that Cal Jennings scored that I kind of associate with Cal Jennings, where he just ultimately does a ton of work on his own with the ball.
Yeah.
And congratulations to both of them on something that was super highlight worthy and also like just super weird at the same time.
Yeah, no, for sure. I was one of the I think the commentators kind of mentioned it pretty well towards the end of the game. Connor Antley ending up with the two most random assists of his life. Like
there you go.
A throw in and a little, just pass in the midfield ended up being one of the goals of the season potentially. But yeah, no, I think it is worth mentioning the Las Vegas goal 10 minutes later again here, because I'm looking back at it and it still just doesn't really make any sense. Like how
did that happen?
That happened. And I've rewatched it more than a few times at this point. I think I can only tolerate it because we won. Had we lost, I would have watched it once and put it away. But first of all, I guess it was a corner kick that came off of.
Yeah, it originally started corner kick.
So
another set piece goal.
Yeah, ball bounces out. I think that's Carlton on the wing, cuts it back, and it was three players that are all bunched together, not really knowing what they're doing here. I see Forbes, Lasso, Doherty, and JJ Williams. And JJ Williams has been pretty good at defending set pieces in the past. Like that's kind of another hidden, unspoken talent of his, which I guess makes sense with his size. He's been pretty good at defending set pieces, but I mean, if you're listening to this on the audio, you won't be able to see this. You probably can't see it on my phone very well either. But look at this. There's three guys here, James, just wide open in the back post. They're all on side.
And all of our guys are bunched up together at the
same
point.
And they're bunched up right. I really don't know what's going on.
How did you guys end up in this formation?
Like I've been looking at this screenshot and rewatching the video over and over. I can't figure it out. But any one of those three guys could have put that into the back of the net. Connor Sparrow had, it's impossible for Sparrow to do anything there. So if Connor
he did get a hand on it, I will say that was he almost did save what was essentially a free header.
Exactly. He did way more than he should have been able to. So shout out to him. Connor Sparrow's family is very active on Twitter, and they might be listening to this. So shout out Connor Sparrow. I love you guys too. Thank you for being so active on the Rowdies Twitterverse. You did a great job on that, and I'm not just saying that because I mentioned them. Like, you did as much as you can on that goal. So it is what it is. Defense has to help him out there. I genuinely do not know what happened there. I'm not going to say too many bad things about the back line because they've done pretty good throughout the season. I feel like we've seen a few of those moments where we're like, what the hell's going on with the back line? Not like a ton, not things that would like ruin games, but a few moments where I'm like, I don't know, like a couple guys just fall asleep, like literally, and then totally lose their guy. So I don't know. It's a little frustrating. It's less frustrating because we won, but I'm sure going forward, there's going to be games where if that happens again, we can't really get away with that. We're playing a good team who's playing well. Honestly, I'm surprised we got away with it against Las Vegas because, again, we're saying a lot of bad things about Las Vegas, and maybe it's warranted. But they played a really good game, James, honestly. They outplayed us entirely. They had more shots. They had more shots on target, both in the first half and the second half, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Let me confirm that. Yeah, first and second half, they had more chances, more quote unquote big chances, according to Fatma.
Right.
At the end of the game, or at the end of the first half, they had 6 shots, 2 on goal. We had 0 shots off target. We had 2 on goal at the end of the first half. Second half, they had 5 shots, 3 on goal. We had 2 shots, 1 on goal. They outplayed us the whole game, really.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna ask how did we get away with it, but I know like we just have a better team. I think that's how we got away with it, honestly. If we were playing any team that's like even mildly better than Las Vegas, had I don't know, like a slightly better back line or a slightly more clinical attack, we should have lost this game pretty
Yeah,
clearly.
I think that's pretty important to note after this one.
Yeah. I mean, we did not play great, but again, like I mentioned this last episode, I said this has all the elements of a trap game, right? I mean, it's going to be we're playing the worst team in the league, like no debate, right? That being said, it's going to be our 3rd road game in a row, right? It's my 3rd road game in a row, and we're going way out west, like you said, to Las Vegas. We're playing at a field that barely qualifies as a field, like it's dirt, right?
Yeah.
In a stadium that is so wacky, and they always have just goofiness going on. If you listen to the broadcast, they have music playing the entire game.
Yeah.
Like what the hell is right? Like these are things that seem very minimal and probably are, but 3rd road game, traveling way out west, so maybe a little bit sleep deprived with the time difference. These things can affect the game, I think, and the way like I've talked, some of the players about stuff like this in the past, not like specifically this roster, but professional athletes about the travel and these little minimal things. This can affect the game, and I think I'm not going to criticize this team too much. I mean, we're on a 10-game unbeaten streak, so I think we deserve a lot more praise than we do critiques here. But I think these external factors definitely affected this game more so than in other away games this season. That's my hypothesis. I don't have anything to like concretely prove that. I haven't asked the players about this game specifically, right? I'm basing this off performance, circumstantial evidence. That's just what it feels like. And then, this is going to transition us here into the second half, James. Going back to what I mentioned earlier, the Dayon Harris substitute at halftime. Again, I thought that was going to be a game changer. I thought we were going to turn it up a notch and really just the goals were going to start coming like they did against Loudoun. But it didn't. Like, again, I think there was just something weird about this game. It was the vibes were just strange. We needed these moments of brilliance to get away with 3 points against, again, the worst. Yeah, against the worst team in the league. So we got away with it, and I think I think it is a testament to how good this squad is to be able to do that despite playing so poorly. So again, I'm not going to complain too much, but it is worth noting that we probably should have lost this game, right? And let's just jump into the second half with that. Is there anything you saw that maybe particularly showed like how we got away with it, or do you think again it was just kind of a talent gap there between these two teams?
I think there is a talent gap for sure. In all honesty, this was a game where I thought the opposing team's desire to go back to it I think that this was one where the opposing team's desire actually did make up for the fact that there was what is supposed to be a pretty big gulf in talent. So I think that JJ Williams was a beneficiary of Lucky Mkosana coming on, because Lucky isn't going to uh, be as active in terms of chasing balls down or anything like that. Like, he's not going to be running into the midfield and harrying players. But what you have to do with when Lucky's on the field is you have to always have a focus on him, because he's a very good poacher, and he'll just show up in places you're like, how did you get there? Oh, he's on the end of the ball. Oh, we've scored, or we've given up a goal. But that obviously didn't happen here. They were focused on him possibly doing that. And JJ Williams was the one who kind of dropped back. I was similarly, let's say, confused like you about the Deion Harris move. And when Cal Jennings was kept on the field as the more attacking midfielder-ish player, not quite, not quite a number 10 like how Charlie Dennis would have played it, but he also wasn't really like a partner up next to JJ Williams either. So
Yeah.
it was an interesting role. I
Yeah.
would have expected, just like you said, Charlie Dennis to stay on as the number 10. I would have expected Deion Harris to play as an out and out winger who's like, you need to get to the end line, you need to beat somebody and cross the ball in. Unfortunately, that wasn't very effective, but yeah, Cal Jennings was very interesting, and he might have, earned his way onto staying on the field by being
Yeah.
so important in the first half that he got us
Yeah.
that goal almost through sheer will, and
Exactly.
just like, I'm going to make this happen myself. And
Yeah.
credit to him for not celebrating either. But maybe that's why he was on for the second half, as opposed to the players and positions that we have mostly seen
Yeah.
over the course of the season so far. I'm not entirely sure, because we can't get in their heads. Either way, yeah, when Cal Jennings did go off and Lucky came on, JJ was the guy who was dropping deeper. And we have rarely seen that. But then Connor Antley, he is able to break down that right side just enough to earn himself some space, get the ball into JJ Williams at, what would you say, that wasn't 40 yards out, but it was like probably 30 yards out.
It
So
was
he
it was
has,
like a whole like second base to home base type thing there, James. It's
yeah,
the way you can
yeah.
describe it on that field.
Like, it was a very big difference between or a very big distance between the goal and where JJ Williams received the ball, and ultimately where he shot it. So I was pretty stunned. I didn't watch this game live, because my wife had the second of her two roller derby bouts on Saturday. But yeah, when I got home, I had already watched the highlights, and you know I had seen the highlights it's just a small clip, obviously, so you don't get to see everything that built up to it. When you're watching the game, you don't I still didn't expect that would be the play that led to the goal, because it was just so kind of out of nothing. And
Exactly.
yeah, I still think that the Las Vegas fullbacks were, having a very good game overall throughout all of the second half. Shutting down Connor Antley, they still kind of did that in a way, because if you think about it, the two assists that he had were in his own half and then just into Las Vegas's half. It's not like he, beat several players before he got a cross off or anything. They did a very good job of shutting him down and doing their own attacking plays. Going back the other way, they
Yeah.
nearly scored right before we scored, and then again after we scored. But yeah, it was just very interesting. And the other thing, this is the question that I had, Carlos.
Yeah.
Now, we have this game, we have the one against Loudoun United. Neither of them was a very good game. I think that they're both on the road. They're both on the road after several weeks on the road.
Yeah.
You can make all of these excuses, and at certain points so far, we kind of have as well. But, is this a pattern here that has to do with the teams we're playing? Or is this a pattern here in your mind based on the roster as it looks before the Loudoun United game? Because, of course, like you said, Ryan Spalding went back to the New England Revolution. He started that game for them, and I don't know, if we're going to get him back at any point over the course of this season or not. The likelihood is no, but who can say? Lawrence White was here for a couple games. He has left. There were all the injuries that we were dealing with, but we did bring in Jake LaCava as well. So that's kind of my last question. I'll turn that over to you. Do you think that this is a pattern that's just because we played Loudoun United in Las Vegas, or is this kind of a whole new rebuild in the middle of the season where we're trying to put together a new formation?
I think the Spalding loss is obviously a little bit influential. I mean, to say the least. He was, again, we've mentioned this before. He was playing at an MVP type pace with the production he was having. That being said, again, there's so much talent on this squad, and the Jake LaCava addition, I think, really, really healthily replaces what Spalding brought to the team. And I think the only, as far as like a restructuring of the squad and kind of what it looks like halfway through the season, I would say it's really just, for me, I think if you take a look at the lineup, right, from this past week, it's pretty clear who our main go-to striker guy is right now, right?
Yeah.
It's JJ Williams, obviously. Right. We've been playing with a back four now for more than a few games. I think that's pretty set in stone. I guess the question is kind of who plays that left back role. Every once in a while, does Armin drop back? Or does Guillen play that left back role, and Kleeman and Lasso in the mid, the two center backs? You always have kind of like a rotating door of like, the kind of more defensive midfielders with Doherty and whoever his partner is in the midfield. And I don't think that's very uncommon for most soccer teams. I mean, some rotation there is pretty normal. And we have, I think, more than a couple. We have a couple guys that can play that role, and Doherty and Ekra if needed. Armin obviously has slotted into that now, kind of that dynamic position kind of guy. We have a few more injuries coming back. Hopefully we get Ervo sooner rather than later, and Lewis Hilton as well, right? Those are kind of like the two big keys in the midfield, I think, as well, that will significantly add to the core midfield piece that I think maybe, I wouldn't even say it's been lacking. I mean, we just need a little bit more depth there.
Yeah.
One injury can really screw things up for the rest of the year in that midfield. So that would be nice to have back. Slot Lewis Hilton in there. Obviously, Zach Ervo is a great player as well. I think the only question mark is kind of that. The only real question mark for me is, again, what I mentioned earlier, the Dennis kind of Jennings relationship, that dynamic in that attack, what that's going to look like going forward. I think Neil Collins is honestly still trying to figure that out as well. I think with LaCava is such a unique player because he can be a winger, he can be a striker, he can be a lone striker if he needs to be, but not usually. He can be kind of like the paired up striker with JJ Williams, and you play like a 4-4-2. Like there's a lot of stuff you can do with LaCava, and Jennings is a dynamic player as he is as well. JJ Williams is going to be like the striker, right? No matter what, barring anything crazy or just big dry spell of production. I think the question mark is just in that kind of like attacking unit right behind JJ. What does that look like? I wouldn't call that like a restructuring or anything. I think Neil Collins is still just kind of like seeing what's going to work best. And honestly, like there's not really a wrong answer, I think, right now, because I think there's going to be a lot of production no matter how you line that three up. I think it's just going to be what's going to be the best one. And I think for me, I really like Charlie Dennis in that attacking midfield, kind of like number 10 position, like you said. Again, I'm not a licensed coach like Neil Collins, so I'm not going to like question his judgment or anything. That's what I've really enjoyed watching. I think that's what has largely contributed to our success, even independent of Spalding in that stretch of really good games we've had. As far as these like poorer performances against bad teams the past couple of weeks, I don't think that's like that that's not very like uncommon, right? Like we've had more than a few bad performances against bad teams in past seasons. It's kind of like what's the word? I don't know, like going back to what you said, it's kind of like a cliche in sports that, sometimes the best teams tend to play down to their competition, and the worst teams, the teams that have nothing to lose, tend to turn it up 50 notches when they're playing the best teams. So I think part of the reason we played like not as great as we expected against Las Vegas is because I think Las Vegas had a really good game. Like genuinely, they had one of their better games of their entire season. It was against us, and we still got a win, thankfully. Same thing with Loudon. Loudon had one of their best performances of the season last week against us. And then I'm not even like saying again, I'm not fully versed in Las Vegas or Loudon knowledge,
Right,
but
right.
that's what their own commentators were saying. Their own local commentators who watch every single game, and looking at their past results, it makes sense that these were their best performances. So I'm not particularly worried. I think this upcoming game on Saturday will be a good indicator of where we're at, and what the kind of like quote unquote new offense looks like without Spalding, I guess. But I think Neil Collins is going to obviously have to turn it up a bit against a better team in Oakland Roots. Yeah, I mean, a pretty good team. We'll get to them in a second, but I don't think there's much of a trend to be worried about here, James. Yeah, I think we'll see how we look on Saturday, but honestly, I don't think it's that uncommon for the teams we've played the past couple of weeks, or that even that unexpected for them to play their best game of the season, for us to be a little bit off our game in comparison to that. So I'm not concerned. I think we'll be all right. And at the end of the day, both of those two games where we had bad performances, especially the past weekend, like we got 3 points.
Yep.
And like again, Las Vegas is not good by any means, really, but they're still a professional soccer team, and you really can't take any game for granted out here in the USL, especially away. Especially, I'm going to make the excuses, like I said earlier. I mean, I think there's plenty of reasons and external factors that kind of contributed to that. But at the end of the day, we won. So, I'm not too concerned, and we'll see. Well, I think summary, I feel good. I'm happy, and I don't think it'll be a problem going forward.
All right. Well, I will. I will take your word for that. I do like your summary, but we have one more question before we can move on here, Carlos, and that is, who is your man of the match now?
I'm going to take the easy cop out answer and say
I don't know if it's a cop out answer because I think he deserves it.
it's a cop. It's JJ Williams. Like, there's no reason like for me not to pick him. Like he wasn't particularly active the entire 90 minutes per se. He was doing a lot of running around, dropping deeper than usual, maybe. Putting in his workload was high, and he was running all 90 minutes. So, and that's tough for a guy of his size, to be honest, and for the speed he has. Fantastic work from him to not only keep up that effort throughout the 90 minutes, but even at the end of the game when he was most tired, score the goal of the season potentially out of nowhere. Like you said, out of literally nothing. He turns around and just rips a left-footed shot into the upper corner. Like, just the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. Well, I guess maybe not the most beautiful thing you've ever seen, but maybe the Joe Cole bicycle kick against Puerto Rico is up there. But JJ Williams' goal, Las Vegas, to give us the win in Sin City. You know what they say about Sin City, James, right? Actually, I don't know where I'm going with this. Whatever. We stole points. We committed a terrible sin and stole 3 points from Las Vegas. The JJ Williams effects. What can you say? We did it.
All right. Well, I will. I'm going with you on that one because that was a thunderbolt of a goal. So it kind of pulled it out of nowhere. Now, I will say, for my man of the match, this is someone who did not score but kept us in the game, and that goes to Connor Sparrow. I would have liked to go with Connor Antley on this one as well. I think that he had a very good game. I honestly am not counting the assists in that because they were so weird, but we wouldn't have even been in the game to possibly go and win without Connor Sparrow in this one. Now, like I said, I didn't watch this game live. I watched the highlights first, and then I put the game on to get get the whole feel for it. When you just watch the highlights, you can see how important Connor Sparrow was because there were multiple chances where Las Vegas really should have scored. He even stopped Zolly on the first goal originally. It was just unfortunate that the rebound fell right to him. But there's only so much you can do in certain situations too. So yeah, Connor Sparrow kept us in the game and he made it happen. So I am going with him for my man of the match.
That's a very, very valid pick. Shout out Connor Sparrow. Shout out the Sparrow family on Twitter. We love you. Thank you for being so active. Great pick, James. Okay.
I'm sure they will like this pick. I'm hopeful, but yeah, he deserves it after all of the big chances that he
Yeah.
came up big for. So yeah.
Yeah. James is farming retweets from the Sparrow family on Twitter. Great. James, let's move on to just kidding. Let's not move on to the preview yet. Breaking news, not so breaking because we mentioned it earlier, James. The next RBLR Rowdies watch party will be on July 22nd versus none other than Indy 11. It was a blast last time. It was such a success. We love seeing all of you out there. And we'll be right back at Berry House Beer Co. Yeah, it's a beautiful spot down in Ybor. Great beer, cheap beer pitcher specials. 6:15 starts the pre-game show. Be sure to come early if you want to be featured in that. You want to make yourself heard to the airwaves. Come early, have a good time. Game starts at 7 p.m. with, James, get this, a halftime swag giveaway. I like free stuff. I'm sure everybody listening likes free stuff. Come on. We're practically giving away stuff over here with these deals from Berry House and free clothes at halftime, potentially merch. Who knows what's going to happen? It's full of surprises. Hopefully, we surprise Indy over there and get 3 points as well. And we're just going to have a dandy old time. I'm looking forward to it, James.
Yep, I am looking forward to it as well. Now, obviously, what we would usually say is go to the RBLR Sports shop and get some stuff. Yep. But, of course, we are trying to highlight this because it's going to be a lot of fun. And if you also do want some RBLR merch, well, you might just find some at the watch party. So, yeah, if you would like one of these, I don't know exactly what Eureka has in mind for our merch, but yeah, we'll see what we have when we get out there. Please do show up, though. It's going to be fun, even if you aren't interested in merch or beer. I don't know why you wouldn't be, but if for some reason that isn't your thing, there is still a lot of fun to be had.
Maybe you just like the Rowdies, and that's a totally valid reason to come to.
Yeah, we're going to try and glom on or have other people glom on to us. They see how much fun we're having and want to come over and join, and then they're like, "Oh, what's this soccer team? I didn't know there was a local soccer team." And then we make some more fans for the boys, and I think that would be honestly the coolest thing.
Yeah. They should pay us for like marketing the team. They used to have like the Rowdy Street team. That was a thing for a little bit.
Yeah,
they would run around like with tents and stuff like that. What happened to them? Anyway,
I don't know.
Whatever.
Instead, we got all the tents that are in front of the games now.
Exactly. This random thought segment of the day. Thank you for tuning in for that. James, more important than anything, Oakland Roots. You ever heard of them?
Once or twice. I know that they have some cool outfits.
Yeah, I mean, twice because that's how many times we've played them in the past. We haven't played them much. This will be the third time, James. On Saturday, we will host the Oakland Roots, 7:30 p.m. in St. Pete. It's been way too long since we've had a home game, James. It's been since the last home game we had was June 10th, almost a full month since our last home game, which was that 3-2 win against New Mexico United. I'm looking forward to this so much. It's been so long. Let's talk about the opponent. The Roots have sit currently in 8th place in the Western Conference with 23 points from 16 games, while we're currently in 3rd place in the Eastern Conference with 31 points from 17 games. We're currently in a 3-way tie for first place with Charleston and Pittsburgh, with a game in hand, by the way, against Charleston, who's currently sitting in first place. That's dandy. Oakland are not particularly in top form right now. They started off the season pretty well and since have kind of slumped a bit. They have one win in their last 5 games. The win was an away win to Colorado Springs, and then 3 straight draws, one against Phoenix away, one against Phoenix at home, and one against Pittsburgh Riverhounds at home. 0-0 tie against the Riverhounds. You look at those results and you might say they're not that bad. Getting, draws against really good teams in Pittsburgh, getting a decent win away in Colorado. And then their last game, James, last Wednesday, they lost 2-0 at home to the second worst team in the Western Conference, Rio Grande Valley FC. That's kind of the surprise. I think that's kind of where they're at right now. But that being said, they're going to be looking to bounce back from a really, really bad result and try to make a statement that they're not going anywhere. They're going to be here to stay, and they're trying to get a win against one of the best teams in the league right now, your Tampa Bay Rowdies. They play mostly in a 3-4-3 formation with Paul Blanchette to start in net likely. Their three will likely be, three in the back will be Emrah Kilmenta, Nabil Hackshaw, who will now be back from the Gold Cup. I'm saying Bold Cup. Did you hear that? What is that? And none other than Danny Barbier will be making up that back line with those guys. Memo Diaz and Wolfgang Prentice have started on the wings recently, but Diaz was sent off versus RGV, so he looks like he'll be suspended for this game against us. Good news for us. Decent player in Diaz. In Diaz. Brian Tamakis will possibly fill in upon leaving the Gold Cup. We'll have to wait and see. Apart from that, Napo Matsoso and Lindo Mfeka will play in the midfield roles, if not one of their replacements like Joseph Nane or Nane. Sorry if I'm butchering that, Joseph. Johnny Rodriguez and Darius Formula will play up top, those kind of front to dual striker role. Formella has 6 goals, Rodriguez has 5, and Mfeka, by the way, USF alumni. I didn't know that, James. Thank you for that note. He has 3 this season. Matsoso has 3 assists, and multiple other players sit on 2 assists so far this year. Again, a team that can produce a lot of offense, multiple different guys that can score, and multiple different guys that can create opportunities as well. This will certainly not be an easy test for your Tampa Bay Rowdies. Edgar Arito could also play an important role. He leads the team in big chances, quote unquote. I love that stat. I feel like it's very subjective, but it's a stat. Playing at home will certainly be beneficial for your Tampa Bay Rowdies squad coming back together after a lot of away games and whatnot. That being said, 2 poor games, James, back-to-back these past couple of weeks. Still got the 3 points. We could say, like you said earlier, it might be an almost kind of like mid-season rebuild. I think we're just trying to figure out what's going on there in the midfield. But no better place to do that than glorious Al Lang Stadium, the most beautiful stadium in sports, the venue of the gods, right? Made by the hand of God himself, came down to St. Pete and formed this beautiful place that makes up a nice little soccer pitch for your Tampa Bay Rowdies. And that is the scene for this Saturday, James. Tampa Bay Rowdies, 3rd place in the Eastern Conference against Oakland Roots, 8th place in the Western Conference. Certainly will be a good game. You might see us as the clear favorites. I think I see us as that as well, but it'll certainly be tight, and I think it'll be much, much tighter than maybe some people might think at first. Oakland's a solid team. Again, they can create a lot of opportunities. They haven't been in great form, but that might be all the reason why they might be a bit more dangerous than ever, right? Teams always seem to try and bounce back against the best teams. Again, coming off a pretty bad result against RGV, they're going to be looking to make a statement. How do you think this game is going to go? James, what do we got?
Well, I do think that, as you said, this is going to be a tougher one than we've had. There are a couple of players that people are familiar with, I think, from just having played in the USL for a while. There were a couple of players who were obnoxious for us to play against last year. One of those was Edgardo Rito. I believe he was actually with Monterey Bay. His game against us, we did not play well against Monterey Bay, but somehow we snuck out of there with like a draw, if I'm not mistaken. It was hairy, but we got away with it. Either way, he is going to be important, as you already said. This Dariusz Formella, he is formerly of the Polish top division. The Polish top division is not the best league in Europe, but it's a top division. It's going to be someone like it's going to be the place that someone like Robert Lewandowski got his start. He didn't turn into who he is specifically because of his play only in the Polish league, but yeah, that's where he started. It's obviously got a lot of quality there, and I think that that's something to keep in mind. He's sitting pretty good on the points right now, and Johnny Rodriguez was another player who was doing pretty well from his position, usually as a striker, or as a, maybe not a striker, because when you think of a striker, you think of someone like Erling Haaland or Harry Kane, I guess. He's more of a forward where he'll, start in different positions and work his way into the middle. Those are going to be important players. And it's really interesting. Oakland Roots have, I don't know if this is something that they have actively worked on, but they have a couple of different players who come from African refugee backgrounds. So Napo Matsoso, who's from Lesotho in Southern Africa. Then there's Lindo Mfeka, who's from South Africa. They both grew up in Kentucky area, like Louisville area, I think. They went to different schools and then they made their way into the professional ranks. Another one is a player that I actually really like. He hasn't got a ton of playing time this year, but Irakoze Donaciano. He was born in Tanzania to parents from Burundi. Yes, I believe it's Burundi. Either way, he grew up in Virginia and then he went to UVA. That's where I saw him play the most, and I have really enjoyed seeing him hopefully get more playing time as a professional. But yeah, they're just not only are those generally good players, Matsoso and Mfeka have been very important for Oakland, but also really good stories. Guys who have
Totally.
moved here with their families to escape conflict in certain situations, to escape, just worse conditions in other situations. But yeah, they've gone on and become professional soccer players. That's incredible.
Totally.
I kind of just wanted to highlight that as a separate thing because it's really cool that Oakland seems to tell, they want to be for the community, so to speak. And I think that they're really doing a good job of that.
Yeah.
As for the soccer, I don't kind of care. I still want them to lose. But, that just comes with being a fan of another team.
Yeah.
So I will say that I think that the Rowdies can win this one. I don't think that Oakland necessarily have it in them, but they're still going to be a very tough team, and they're going to be a team that we need to watch out for. So when it comes to how I think the Rowdies are going to do, Carlos, I will actually leave it to you to start us off here with your with your prediction. And then I'm going to move to mine based on where you go, because I want to see what you're feeling first. I want to see what you're feeling first.
Okay. I respect it. James, I think it's worth mentioning that Oakland Roots, according to my trusty stats app here, Oakland Roots is, at least according to goals conceded per match, right? They've only conceded about, according to FOTMOB, 1.1 goals per match, which puts them in third place. They've only conceded 17 goals all season. They're one of the better defensive teams, surprisingly. That's one of the stats that you might overlook if you're just looking at their points, if you're looking at how they've been playing the past few games. I think it's going to be a tight one. I don't think we're going to score a ton of goals. 2-0. That's what I was going to go with 1-0 originally, but I feel like that's not enough given the firepower we have. I think we can pull off more than that. I think we can pull off a 2-0 win because I think our back line's going to tighten up. I'm waiting for it to happen where we get a really, really, really good defensive performance. I feel like it's been a little while since we've been out of game where I'm like, oh man, we didn't make a single mistake on defense. We haven't had a shutout since May 20th against RGV. Pretty bad team. Why not now, right? We're coming back home. Might as well be time for another shutout. It's been 6 games since we have a shutout. So we have the back line for it, really. We have Forrest, Lasso, and Kleeman. Lasso, 3-time Defender of the Year in USL, or 2-time? 3-time? 3-time. 2-time.
Yeah.
Whatever. Multiple-time Defender of the Year. It's time for a shutout, guys. Come on. I want to see him posting his little donut video when he gets his donuts and he's getting all hyped up with the music and whatever. I need that in my life. I need another win. Let's break the unbeaten streak of 13 a few seasons ago. I don't know. Let's just win. 2-0 Rowdies over Oakland Roots. Great stories from Oakland, but we're going to win. And I don't know. I'm feeling it. 3 points. Let's go.
Okay. All right. Well, I will just go ahead and say Producer Eureka has said a win as well. 1-0 to the Rowdies. They turtle. We knock one through eventually, in his words. And I will say for the guest spot, this is my brother-in-law, Daryl Smith. We will, we will include his Twitter, but he has picked a win for the Rowdies as well, 2-1. So I guess I will be the only dissenting voice when I say that the Rowdies are going to get a 1-1 draw.
What the hell, James? So we can't take you anywhere, man.
I know.
What are you thinking?
I am the obnoxious one about it, but that's where I'm leaning on this one. I think it could be a little hairy, but
this guy. I mean, listen, I was leaning towards 1-0 because I was feeling like I like Eureka. I was feeling that they might kind of sit back and eventually we score on a penalty, maybe. I think it's gonna be pretty tight. My reasoning for my 2-0 is I think we score one. I don't know, sometime early in the second half, and the second one comes off of a counterattack at the end of the game where Oakland's pushing all the way up and Cal Jennings gets a breakaway goal by himself against the goalie. That's the 2-0 I'm feeling. I'm not feeling like a comfortable 2-0. I'm feeling a very, very tight 2-0. And I just think that's kind of the vibe I'm getting. 1-1 doesn't necessarily seem unreasonable. I just don't like you being pessimistic, James. So that's kind of lame of you. But I think it's a fair prediction. Not likely, though. I think we're more likely to win than we are to draw or lose, to be honest. I feel like we're too good a team, and we're in, I guess, like an unbeaten form. I'm not going to say like a winning streak, but we're in an unbeaten streak now of 10 games. I don't know. We're in a position where I just think it's going to keep rolling. We're going to keep getting better, and that midfield is going to find its identity a bit. Yeah, it's only up from well, I guess it's not only up from here. There could be downs, but the sky's the limit is the wording I'm looking for. There's a lot of potential on this team. Cal Jennings is clicking now, finally. Kind of what we expected from him early on in the season. He's clicking. JJ Williams has been in great form. LaCava came back to the team, and he's awesome, and he's going to get good at, like, he's going to find his rhythm eventually as well. Charlie Dennis is Charlie Dennis, and he's had a great season as well. Like, I think we're going to win. I don't know why you're being so pessimistic, James, man.
God. It's just a feeling I'm getting, but
I'll throw you into the bay in the stadium.
Okay, maybe we don't have a winning thing for who gets the most predictions right, but maybe we have a losing one to get thrown into the bay.
If the guest spot wins, me, you, and Eureka have to jump into the bay.
Ooh, I kind of like that. I kind of like that. Eureka, so we'll think about that one.
We'll workshop that. We'll workshop.
But all right, that will do it for the predictions. Let's move into our extra time segment. And we just want to highlight again, the next RBLR Rowdies watch party is coming up. It is July 22nd, back at Berry House, off of the Ybor Strip, like 2 blocks off the Ybor Strip.
Let's go.
And the pregame show will start at 6:15. We'll be going over everything about the game and leading up into it. Then obviously it will get going. I believe at 7:30 is when the game should start. But there will be a halftime swag giveaway. Again, there will be beer pitcher specials. There's all that kind of stuff. And I mean, if you haven't been to Berry House before, it is a great place. Look up the menu in terms of their beer. I believe that they will have a couple food options, if I'm not mistaken, but sometimes they also have food trucks. So there's always going to be good options there. Do come out and join us. We're going to have a great time. The next thing I want to say, RBLR FC will be playing in a 5v5 tournament this Saturday. I'm a little scared about the weather because, as everyone knows, global warming has turned, I think, the whole world into a fire pit this week. But Florida in particular is dealing with that. So maybe we'll get some cloud cover. I think that's at least in the forecast, and I'm really hopeful that we get some, because I'm far too pale to be out in the sun for 4 or 5 hours, whatever it is, and just baking all day. It's not going to go my way.
It's a lot of letters, by the way. RBLRFC.
Yeah, we should have found some way to make it just longer and longer every time we say it.
That's wild. Imagine saying that like combination of letters to somebody before like soccer existed. I feel like you're seeing those memes where like, imagine showing a Victorian era child like a VR headset. That's what I'm thinking. Right. Imagine saying RBLRFC to somebody in like the 1700s. Anyway, James, I threw this in here in the extra time segment. Lots of fun stuff going on in the world of the CONCACAF Gold Cup. Honestly, full disclosure,
last night was wild.
Yeah, I haven't really enjoyed the Gold Cup in the past. I feel like I only start watching kind of when the semifinals roll around, and you get like pretty good games like Mexico, Costa Rica, USA, Jamaica. When Panama's in good form, Mexico, Panama, good game, stuff like that. Genuinely, James, though, I have really enjoyed the group stage of this tournament. There's been a lot of good games, a lot of surprises, a lot of really good performances from some of the smaller island nations, or I guess like territories like Guadeloupe and Martinique. Teams that I think pretty much out of nowhere came in and started surprising everybody, and very much could have made it to the next round had they not gotten unlucky in the past couple of days. Fun stuff going on in the Gold Cup. If you're not keeping up with that, make sure to tune in as the knockout rounds start to come around. I think we could be in for more than a couple surprises, James. for the first time in a little bit, I think there's a good chance that a team like Jamaica, or who knows, maybe even like Panama, if they start getting hot at the right time, can pull off a couple upsets and make it to the final. Obviously, you want the U.S. to win, but I don't know. It's a fun tournament this year, James. Even my dad, who's like low key a CONCACAF hater, he only watches like the CONMEBOL games. He's like, man, like he was really getting into like the games yesterday. And there was I put a screenshot on Twitter. Across the 4 group stage games yesterday, there were 25 goals. Like, what the hell is going on? That's the magic of the Gold Cup. It is what it is. I just wanted to mention that in there because it's awesome, and I haven't enjoyed a Gold Cup this much in a very, very long time. Yes. Thank you, Guadeloupe and Martinique, for making it so much fun in particular, by the way.
Yeah, I've been having a great time. I would love to see Jamaica win it because I think that they actually have, built the team that everybody knew that Jamaica had the possibility to play with. They just weren't always putting it together, and that's probably partially down to the Jamaican Federation.
Yeah.
If anyone's following on the women's side, they are having to crowdfund their trip to the Women's World Cup. So there is obviously something going wrong with the Jamaican Federation and their money problems. But the teams we know on both the men and women's side are very good. And congratulations to them on doing well.
The men's team has, I think, like pretty clearly the best team in the Gold Cup right now. Like just pure like talent and roster wise. Like there's no reason they shouldn't be able to win the Gold Cup. But, soccer and Jamaican Federation, like you said, kind of having its own issues. Love to see how it plays out, but it's going to be a fun tournament. It's going to be a fun ride to the end. Keep an eye on the Gold Cup. Keep an eye on Jamaica. Maybe they get their title finally.
That'd be good. And the last note we have here, this is something a little special. It is going to be the 50th RBLR Rowdies appearance for Carlos Rueda.
Woo!
So, Carlos, as Eureka wrote in here, thank you for being awesome and helping out at RBLR for all this time now, 50 appearances. We obviously love having you, and your insight has been pretty key in a lot of the situations when we're trying to break these down.
I love you, James.
I love you too, Carlos. I am so glad that you are here.
I just want to put it out there. I want the tifo from like Eureka for my 100th appearance. I want I want a full tifo from Eureka in like the media section up there and like the little media like tables in Outlaying. Once it's hit.
That would be honestly really funny. I think that we should put that together. We will do that, and it will say I love you, Carlos, and have everyone from RBLR Sports past and present.
There you go. That'd be sick. That's like my dream. I swear I've had a dream about that at some point. Who knows? Anyway, James, thank you for that mention. It doesn't feel like 50 episodes. That means 50 separate weeks, right? For the yeah. That's wild. Lots of episodes, lots of content, lots of rowdies. But hey, it's a good time. That's why we do it, right? I mean, you've done even more episodes, so you would know even better than me that it's a good time. We enjoy chatting rowdies. We enjoy putting content out into the Rowdies Twitterverse, the Rowdies multiverse, right? It's a great time. So thank you everybody for tuning in more than anything. It's just a blast knowing that even a few people are out there getting a bit more Rowdies content than they otherwise would have had it not been for James and I rambling on for an hour about Las Vegas and their antics and the Gold Cup and all the other baloney I say to pretend I know what I'm talking about for an hour. Yeah, I appreciate it, James. And here's to 50 more, right?
There we go. All right. Well, everyone, thank you for tuning in, not only for Carlos's 50th, but we announced more about our watch party coming up here, RBLR FC this weekend, everything going on. There's a lot to go. There's a lot to take in the RBLR sports world, but we appreciate you tuning in to take it all in as well with us. Please follow us if you would like even more on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at RBLR Sports. I am on Twitter as well. I am at RBLR James K. Carlos, what about you?
At Carlos TPA10 on Twitter. Wait, hold on. Don't move on yet, James. I'm playing my weekly game of what have I been tweeting about. What was the last thing I tweeted about? I think it was complaining about the Rays. No, I'm just kidding. I wasn't complaining about the Rays. The last thing I tweeted about was the thing I mentioned earlier. 25 goals in 4 games in the CONCACAF Gold Cup last night. Watch it. It's a blast. It's a trip. It's everything you could possibly dream of in the sickos world of soccer, curled up into one little tournament with a bunch of island nations and countries that aren't even countries. It's beautiful. Beautiful. I'm going to be tweeting about it so much during the knockout rounds, James.
There you go. You can get involved on that if you'd like. And we would appreciate, of course, if you've made it this far, we assume you have, but maybe you haven't, please like and subscribe to our show. We are on, you can get the full experience on YouTube, so obviously we are on YouTube. But if you just want to hear us, we're also on Spotify, iHeartRadio app, Apple, Google Podcasts, everywhere where you are, so are we. Now, for another week in the bag and another coming up, come on, you Rowdies.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.